Hey everybody, this is part of our full-length primetime podcast. You can check it out on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, plenty more. I hope you enjoy.
And Brandon, we're going to move on into our next topic. We're talking about the Gonzaga Bulldogs again. And the reason why we're talking about them is I know a little while ago we asked, can they make a tournament run? Or we kind of asked about, can they make a Final Four run? Because this team has been pretty good for quite a while this season. They're still undefeated right now. And I believe even after the conference tournament, if they go undefeated the rest of the regular season and win their conference tournament, I believe they will enter the season, or enter the tournament, I should say, the national tournament at 33-0. And the one thing I find funny with that is SportsCenter had this thing, and I know me and Sean, when we were talking about it, Sean's like, well, Bob Knight had an undefeated team. The three teams that SportsCenter showed that had a similar record to that were the Kentucky team that entered the tournament at 34-0, the Wichita State team that entered the tournament undefeated, and then an old UNLV Runnin' Rebels team that I believe entered that tournament at 34-0 as well. The thing I found funny about two of those four teams, it's either one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to go to the Final Four or they're going to lose in the second round. Because UNLV, Kentucky, they went to the Final Four those years. Wichita State, they lost in the second round. So I'm going to just pose the question to you. Can this Gonzaga Bulldogs team win the national title this year?
Ricky, I definitely think that they can. Mm-hmm. And Ricky and I, we don't always agree on everything.
We don't agree often.
But I think we are very much in agreement, not agreeance.
We're in agreement.
We're very much in agreement on this one. We definitely see this Gonzaga Bulldogs team as being that team that can do it. And the reason being is because, I mean, my gosh, this team just has so much talent. And, you know, I think that this is a different team, different Gonzaga team than we've ever seen before. You know, really interesting to note. Since 1999, the Gonzaga Bulldogs have made the NCAA tournament every single season. And in 1999, the team made it to its first ever round of 32, Sweet 16, and Elite 8. You know when they've been to the Final Four, Ricky? Yeah, never. They've never been to the Final Four, which then, of course, they've never been to the national championship game. And one point that I really want to bring up. So many people will say that the Gonzaga Bulldogs, they've got a great regular season record. Of course they do. Of course they've got a great regular season record. They play nobody. They get to the tournament, and they don't know what to do. They absolutely just fail. And a lot of people would say that. And a lot of people would not be completely wrong in saying that. But how about this? What kind of story did we have last year, Ricky? That, Jay Wright's team is always good in the regular season.
Second round exit.
Man, do they suck in the tournament.
I picked him to go to the Final Four, but it was one of those things where I thought they'd lose second round.
And let me tell you, is that those people also were not wrong.
Yeah, they ate their crow. They did.
Those people were not wrong because
crow
guess what?
Good.
Villanova was always like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of those people that said, you are overrated.
You are what you thought you were.
And absolutely shocked. And Villanova just shoved it right down my throat and the throats of so many others, because what were they able to do? Win it all.
Well, and to me, the big thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that Villanova team, because I want you guys to put a little bookmark right here. I'm going to get back to that Villanova team later in this segment, but I want to touch on Gonzaga first. And the thing that I like most about this team is it is not a team like in this day and age, especially when we're talking about the draft, when we're talking about, you've got the Lonzo Balls, the Markelle Fultz, the Josh Jacksons, the Dennis Smiths, the Ben Simmons last year, the Brandon Ingrams, the Jabari Parkers, the Jahlil Okafors. What do we call those players, Brandon? There's a special word that me and you have debated in the pantheon of MVP history of these kinds of players when it comes to the NBA draft. What do we call these guys?
The one and done?
The one and doners. And it seems like every team is like, you got to have good one and doners. Look at Kentucky, full of one and doners. Always right there in the national championship. They're a good team. That's how Coach Cal works. He gets the one and doners. He coaches them up really well. He pushes them to the NBA, and the new crop comes in. He's a farmer. He grows the crop. He sends the crop away. He gets the new crop. He grows it, sends it away, gets the new crop. That works for him. Gonzaga this year is not a one and done team. You've got Nigel Williams-Goss, who some of you might not remember, but 2 years ago, he was on a Washington team, transferred over to Gonzaga, sat out last year. He's now their leading scorer. They also have Karnowski, who is an upperclassman.
And the only reason I want to interject here is because Mark Few has called him, this is Nigel Williams-Goss, the best leader that he's ever coached. That's huge.
And you also have Jordan Matthews, who's a senior. The only freshman they have that's really contributing to a high level is Zach Collins. That's it. Out of their top four, Goss, Karnowski, Matthews, all upperclassmen. You have Zach Collins is the only freshman on that team. Oh, the number 5 guy in their scoring? Oh, just Jonathan Williams, another junior. And the thing that I told you to bookmark when you brought up Villanova. I want to play a game with you. And this is my big reason for why I think not can Gonzaga win, why they will win the 2017 NCAA National Championship. Would you mind playing a game, being on my game show for
Absolutely.
today?
Do we have the music?
No, we don't have it. We don't have that copyright.
That's a bummer.
We don't got the money for that. I mean, low-budget films here at MVP. But I want to play a little game with you, Brandon. Think back to last year. It's just 1 year.
Okay.
The Villanova team that won the national title, who would you say was their number 1 player? Who was their number 1 player last year?
Oh, what's his name? The white guy.
Archie Diacono?
Yes.
Do you know what year in school he was?
A junior?
A senior.
Oh.
Upperclassman. Josh Hart, what year in school was he? A junior. This team led by upperclassmen at the top. That's year 1. Let's go back 2 years. The Duke team that won the national championship. This is my exception to the rule, however, because the Duke team that beat Wisconsin, their main senior was Quinn Cook. He was their captain. So you got that one senior leader at the top. You also had Marshall Plumlee, who was a pretty big part of that team. Although, let's be honest, that Duke team had Quinn Cook and then Jahlil Okafor, Tyus Jones, Justin Wilson, and then Justice Winslow, and then Grayson Allen. So that Duke team is kind of like my exception to the rule.
The outlier.
But you look at the Wisconsin team, led by upperclassmen, led by Frank the Tank. You look at the next year, and this is where everything gets back to my point. UConn, that won the national championship. Their most important players that year, Shabazz Napier, who was a senior, Niles Griffey, who was a senior, Ryan Boatwright, shout out to Aurora, Illinois, a junior. They were led by upperclassmen. Then let's go back even further. Let's go to the 2012 season, that Louisville team. The Louisville team. And I'm going to pull up the roster really quick. Their main players to me, and these are the ones that I think were the most important. You had Peyton Siva, a senior. You had Luke Hancock, a redshirt junior. You had Georgie Dieng, a junior. You had Russ Smith, a junior. You had the only 2 young guys they had were Kevin Ware, who broke his leg in the tournament, so he didn't really help him in the national championship besides be the great story. He was a sophomore. And then you had Montrezl Harrell, who was a freshman that year. Yet again, another team that was led by their upperclassmen. Kentucky, when they won it over Kansas. Do I even have to say who their leaders were? I mean, this was the team where they had sophomores and freshmen. So Kentucky and Duke were the only teams that had an underclassmen squad go all the way. The UConn team that won it the first time before Shabazz Napier, who was their leading scorer that year? Oh, just a little guy called Kemba Walker, who was a junior that year. And then you also had, well, it was Kemba Walker who led the team as a junior, but I mean, Alex Oriaki was a sophomore. You had Roscoe Smith was a freshman. So they had the freshmen underneath, but it was led by Kemba Walker, that main senior, kind of like Duke. Then you had Duke the year before. They beat Butler. I know that we're going a little bit into the pantheons here. Their main two guys, Kyle Singler, John Schleier, senior and junior, in reverse order. There's my case in point right there. North Carolina, they beat Michigan State. And oh, don't worry, guys. I'm going back 10 years, so we got a few more of these to go. I am really going to hammer in this nail for you to go. And it's not really become a game. It's really become Ricky just is going to try to handle his point. We had Danny Green, Tyler Hansbrough, Bobby Frazier didn't really play much, even though I wanted to say his name. Ty Lawson, Hansbrough senior, Green a senior, Ty Lawson a senior, Lawson a junior, Wayne Ellington a junior. That was a senior-led team that won the national championship. Then the Kansas team that beat Memphis. Memphis had a star who was a freshman, but he lost, so we're not going to say his name, Derrick Rose. But this team had...
You said it.
I know. I couldn't leave it alone. Brandon Rush, who was a senior. Mario Chalmers, who came up big in the national championship. He was a junior. These are teams that have that upperclassman leadership. Then you have Florida. I'm not even going to name Corey Brewer and Joakim Noah, the upperclassmen. Oh, wait, that's right. They won it back to back. So my point is, for the last 10 years, there have been, let's say, 2 or 3, maybe 3, but definitely 2 that have won the national championship with freshmen. The rest of those teams, at least 70% of teams that have won the national championship have had senior leadership. That's what Gonzaga has. Boom, case in point. They're going to win the national championship. Mark it. Put them in my final right now. Put the bracket up. Put them in my final. Don't care who they're playing. They're going all the way.
Well, I have to say,
they're going all the way.
You got to give Ricky props for an outstanding presentation. He certainly was prepared on who he was going to talk about. I think we've got to give him the scarlet letter A. But I think that Ricky makes a really good point. And another reason outside of just the senior leadership that Gonzaga has is the fact that not only do they have Williams-Goss, but they've got Matthews on the outside. They've got Perkins on the outside. Matthews is shooting 39% from beyond the arc, while Perkins is shooting 42% from beyond the arc. You've got those 3 guys when you throw in Goss, and then you've got Collins, and you've got Karnowski, and you've got a 7-1 beast, and you have another 7-footer. I mean, it's outstanding.
And you know what's great about Karnowski? The best thing? It's from Poland. Shout out to my Polish brother over there.
What do they feed them in Poland that boosts them to 7 feet and 300 pounds? But it's outstanding. And the biggest thing, Ricky, outside of senior leadership, outside of shooting, outside of ball handling, they defend. They play defense. How can't you when you've got 2 skyscrapers down low? They play defense, Ricky, and their shooting, that's outstanding. But to be able to defend as well as they can, that's the biggest thing. When we talked about the Zags a couple weeks back, they were one of the best teams in points allowed. You're smiling.
I am smiling. The reason why is Gonzaga's probably going to lose on Thursday. You want to know why? What do I usually do to teams? I'm sorry, Gonzaga Nation.
You are giving them the kiss of death.
I'm sorry. I just did it without doing it. I mean, I really think they're going to win, but go on. That's why I was smiling.
But that's
I'm sorry.
that's really what I
sorry.
believe, though, is that, you know, out of everything, these guys, they've got a great coach. Mark Few is an outstanding coach. I mean, you want to talk about. We just talked about it. We just talked about finding good coaches, finding a good fit. Mark Few has been an outstanding fit with Gonzaga. He has done an outstanding job. Gonzaga played well last season in the tournament, in the game that we saw.
And they were an 11th seed.
And they lost to Syracuse
Probably
in a great game. Probably should have beat them down at the very end.
Who we called the Banshee in their cheerleading section. The one that could scream really loud, and it sounded like a Banshee. That's why we called her the Banshee. And we were on the other side of Gonzaga's cheerleading squad, too, which was really impressive.
And it was an outstanding game, but I think that the reason why Gonzaga can totally do it is because I think this year they're ready. And people could say, Brandon, what about last year? Why weren't they ready last year? Why weren't they ready the year before that? I think they're ready because they have the leadership. They have the great coach. They have the players that are mentally ready, mentally tough, and you've got to be. And I think that they've got that defense, and they've shown it. They have shown it against teams already this season. And people want to say that Gonzaga has not played anybody. Well, that's just not quite true. Gonzaga has definitely played some good teams this season. They've beat Florida. They've beat Iowa State, Washington, Tennessee, Arizona. And they've beat St. Mary's twice. The big team in their conference. They beat them twice, once by 23, once by 10 this last time. They have played some decent teams and beat them. That Florida team's good. That Arizona team is good. Iowa State, not what they were last season. Washington, Tennessee, those are teams on the better end of the spectrum of teams that Gonzaga has played this year. I think they can do it, Ricky. I think that they can do it. They've got the tools. They just need to use them the right way and execute.
Well, and another thing I'm looking at, another reason why I was smiling is if you looked up Joe Lunardi's bracketology, as of right now, on Monday night, guess who is the 2 seed in their side of the bracket? It's a team we've talked about maybe a week or two ago, and it's a team that I said, if you beat them in the tournament, you're winning the national championship.
Oregon.
That's the 2 seed. It's all lining up. If that happens, if Oregon's on their side and they play Oregon in the Elite Eight, because let's be honest, if Oregon's not a 1, they will be a 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they play in the Elite Eight and if Gonzaga beats Oregon, I'm saying they will win the national championship because Oklahoma didn't win it. Wisconsin won it, or Wisconsin got there twice with beating them. Louisville won it all. So it's one of those things where, you know what? You could win it all. You could definitely win it all if you beat Oregon. That's your road to the Final Four. That's your road to the national championship. If you are the Gonzaga Bulldogs, you got to hope Oregon's on your side. Well, really on your side, really, because they'll be on your side of the bracket and they'll be on your side. But you know what would be even better? And I just thought about this. What if they were on the other side of the bracket and it was Gonzaga, Oregon in the national championship and Gonzaga beat them for the national championship? Where it's basically like, well, if you beat Oregon, you're going to win the national championship. Well, duh, Ricky.
Well,
they played in the national championship.
Well, there you go.
But before we end this, before we go into tournament teams that we're going to talk about that people should fear Any last thoughts on this Gonzaga team that I have crowned the 2017 NCAA tournament champions?
They should definitely fear your kiss of death.
Yes, but they should fear it very much. Ask the Arizona Cardinals.
But I think that, and everyone else that you pick, I think that this team really is they're an exciting team. They're nothing flashy because they're not going to play in their schedule. They're not going to play Duke. They're not going to play North Carolina. They're not going to play those teams. But they are going to play enough teams to give themselves good competition. Not just competition, good competition. I named off those teams earlier. I think that this team is poised and they're ready for a great tournament run and very possibly a national championship title.
Well, and this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below. What do you guys think? Will Gonzaga win the championship this year? Can they win it? What do you think about me proclaiming that? I said it right now. That's my bracket champion.
What do they think, Ricky? If they know what you do, they're not happy about it.
That is going to be my tournament champion in the bracket when we do the bracket pool, and get ready for that. I cannot wait to give out some great prizes with our tournament challenge, but let us know down below what you guys think.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed a lot of emotion. If you want more, click this video right over my left shoulder. You will certainly not regret it.